Welcome to the Leisure Network's webinar, Activating Your Facilities. I'm Greta Connell, Program Coordinator in the Sport, Rec and Health team. Thank you for joining me. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional lands I'm on today, in my home in Torquay, the lands of the Wadawurrung people. I thank them and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this region, where I've lived and worked for the past 9 years. This webinar is targeted towards sporting clubs, committee members looking to support the growth and development of their community and the sport in general. However, it can be adapted to suit a variety of people depending on who you are representing while you're watching this. The information will assist you to bring more activity to the facility that you're involved with. I'll take you through some of the key benefits of having a more active facility, the why, and also highlighting some reasons why time spent strengthening key partnerships is so important, and the overall top 5 tips to make facilities more active with a focus on off-peak times. We are so lucky to hear from Andrew Crowley today in the last half of the webinar. Andrew is currently the Manager of Sport and Recreation at Deakin University and is also the President and co-founder of the Torquay Tornadoes Hockey Club. He has a wealth of knowledge from grassroots to elite sport and a strong passion and drive to make the community a better, more active place. So I'm excited that Andrew is able to impart some of his wisdom to us today. So when we talk about facilities, many of them would be managed by the local council with user agreements or seasonal hire agreements in place. There still remains a high level of ownership though from the user groups, as this is generally the heart and soul of the club, the place that draws people in. So facilities are generally pavilions, clubhouse, an outdoor space like an oval or a pitch, or community halls. It's generally the user group that identify areas that need improvement. They're responsible for hazard reporting and maintenance required, and areas to develop, or areas that they would like development. In this case, it's important to have a really good relationship with your local council representative and any other user groups who might also use the space. We'll go into this in a little more detail soon. So why activate your facility? It might be a buzz of energy in those peak times, after hours and on the weekends, but how can you build on what activity is currently taking place and get the facility utilised at even more times of the day? How can you provide more opportunities for people to get involved in the sport that you love, or even involved in a different sport but at the facility that you love? It's a great way to create opportunities for people to get involved, get active, and provide a general sense of connection to their community. Bringing life to your facility during quiet times is a great way to raise awareness of your club, generate new income streams, and increase club growth. Some benefits include that I've got listed up on the screen. More people will be connected to the community, increased use of the facilities during people's leisure time. More people to the facility means potentially more volunteers or new members to the club. Decreased vandalism or crime in the area because facilities are busier, so less time for that bad behaviour to be happening. Increased income generated for clubs and councils through new ideas and initiatives. Greater awareness of pavilions in the community. A lot of people think that they're not really welcome at these clubs, or they don't know that they can just go and use these facilities, particularly the outdoor facilities. So that's a really nice one to break down that barrier. Really great car parking generally at sporting facilities. Bringing diverse activities to the community, and an increased likelihood of funding for facility improvements if it's being used more often. As well as business as usual at your club, when looking to create new opportunities, strong partnerships and relationships with the right people will be fundamental in the success. Some key relationships and partnerships that your club should focus on include, if your club coexists with another club or another group, then it's really important that energy is focused on creating a positive relationship with that group. With smooth communication, it's more likely for positive benefits to occur such as working together to create more impact and better understanding of the times available for new programs to then take place. Seasonal user groups, so such as like footy in the winter season or cricket in a summer season. So seasonal user groups, it's important that they have a good relationship because often they can work together. And it's a stronger front when applying for funding for developments. For example, any upgrades to the facility, car parks, change rooms, that kind of thing. For example, you can learn from what each club is doing in their season. So even if it's a different sport, you can still try to adapt that to the sport that you're involved with. Are they creating any new income streams that can then work in your favour? So just having that open communication is super important. Local council is of utmost importance given the majority of clubs would be putting all requests through their local council representative. And if council know that your club is working towards increasing participation and a diverse range of opportunities, they're more likely to provide support. Your local association is a strong link between your club and the peak sporting body. So it's a really good idea to ensure that you're well connected with them. And the state or national sporting associations have some really good ideas and programs on offer to implement in off-peak times, such as modified versions of your sport. Many are also working at a regional or state level to increase participation of minority groups, such as cold communities, LGBTIQ+, and all abilities, which your club could then provide support for mutual benefit. Multi-use facilities is the way moving forward. You're more likely to get funded support if the proposal has a wider impact on the community. So here are my top 5 tips to activating your facility. As I've mentioned already, state sport associations or national sport associations generally have one or more modified versions of the sport to try and get more people into the game. Many of the modified sports have been co-designed with the target market in mind, with state and national sporting associations really wanting clubs to support the rollout of these programs. It could be the perfect opportunity to get your club space active throughout off-peak times, reaching a cohort of people that wouldn't otherwise engage in your sport. Consulting with your members is so important. Bring them along for the journey. Let them know that your club is trying to activate the facility. You might even have a local personal trainer, yoga teacher, art teacher, or somebody who might even have an idea that you haven't thought of yet. Definitely important to bring those members along for the ride. Speak to your local council to let them know that you're looking to diversify the facility. They might have some ideas to assist given their reach within the community. Connect with other sports, get creative, and have an inclusive lens on everything that you do. Multi-use facilities are becoming more and more popular, and councils want to see shared usage to maximise the facilities that already exist, rather than continue to build purpose-built facilities, which is far less likely. Use social media to promote any new programs, or even to recruit a deliverer or seek new ideas. Social media is very important. So before I say goodbye and hand over to Andrew, I just wanted to highlight the Club Help website. Club Help is designed for members of sporting clubs to be able to access so many resources just to make your lives easier. There's been a lot of work done to make sure that things are there, things that are accessible. So Club Help is www.clubhelp.org.au. If you haven't already checked it out, please jump on there and have a look. And we're constantly updating it with new information. So yeah, jump back on if you've seen it before. But otherwise, it's a thank you from me. And now over to Andrew. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Andrew Crowley. I work at Deakin University and I'm also president of Torquay Hockey Club. I'm doing a presentation today because Greta Collins asked me from Leisure Networks in relation to growing participation in sport recreation and also around facility development and how can that assist in that. A bit of background, my role at Deakin University is Manager of Sport and Recreation, and Deakin is one of the leading universities in the world in exercise sports science and sports management. And we have some great programs and courses in that. In terms of the image I'm showing here, this is the reason why I've chosen this is that we have sports partnerships, particularly in women's sport. So on the left you have Ezzy from the Deakin Melbourne Boomers, who's a student of ours, just coming off winning the premiership with the Boomers. And on the right you've got Kate Maloney, who's with the Melbourne Vixens. So we've got partnerships with both of these sporting organisations. And as part of my year, we've also got the Elite Athlete program. So that has 230 students like Ezzy and Kate, who are students but also elite athletes. And in terms of the facility side of things, our major facility is the Elite Sports Precinct at the Warren Ponds campus in Geelong. That was developed in 2017, and we've got a athletics track, which you can see there in the image, as well as a synthetic soccer, a AFL MCG-sized oval, which is used for elite sport down to community sport, and a baseball facility. We designed the facility so that it can be used for elite sport, but down to community as well. So during the daytime, it's a teaching and learning facility. At night, it becomes a community facility. Or in the mornings, if people there are on daylight. This image shows the AFL Barwon women's draft camp, where basically they were looking at testing women to become AFL players. We were partners in this for testing the students when they were coming for the day. And this was the start of the AFLW program for the Geelong Cats. So we're part of the whole journey on that. In terms of women's sport, the oval is used 80% for matches, women's matches. So it's actually become a hub for women's AFL. And just in terms of the pathways, this image here shows Nina on the left and another student of ours who are both part of the Geelong Football Club. Nina is an example. She was at that first testing day. She hadn't played football before much, but she has got to become the #1 draft in AFLW. And she's a student of ours, and it shows how you can balance study as well as being a elite athlete. And this image here is showing in terms of accessibility for the precinct. So there's Richard Coleman, who's the person there, and he's a Paralympian. He uses the facilities to train, and he also coaches new emerging athletes there. But what the image highlights, if you look in the background there, is that how accessible the facilities are. They were designed to be integrated, so there's no running rail on the running track, there's no gutters, it's one flat surface which is all integrated. And this is really important from a community sport perspective because it means that everybody can get involved. So we made some decisions in the design around that. If it was a general running track, you would have a running rail on that, but we decided not to integrate that into the design. And I suppose by having such fabulous facilities, it allows us to attract events. This is the Australian Indigenous Games in this image, and it was just a fabulous event. People came from all over Australia, from different universities, and played sport, representing their local Indigenous culture. And this image highlights the cultural links. This is the end of the games where they all got together, played music, danced together, and celebrated culture. It was just great fun and a great event. In terms of our students, these are a couple of our images highlight our Deakin Play on the left, which is our social sport. So that's been designed around trying to just to join a competition, just play for fun. One of the great things about this is that if you're a student and you don't have friends, haven't made the networks, you can just join Deakin Play and we'll put you in a team. So I just looked at the stats the other day, and in this year's comp we had nearly 80 people who joined just as individuals. So that's a really successful competition. It's working really well for just playing. The image on the right is our brand new facility in Burwood, which is called Building LC, and that's the yoga space, which is just fabulous. But once again, it's trying to just make facilities open and accessible for students. This image is about social engagement, and I believe very strongly that for the broader community, we need to make sure that we have social engagement, which is fun when we're trying to get people involved in physical activity. So in this case, we had a colour run, and people just love just getting involved, all shapes and sizes, just having fun together, but also being physically active. I suppose now if I flip over to Torquay Hockey Club, this is an image of one of our players. The club started in 2010 with one team in under 11s. Then in 2011 we had two teams, under 11s and under 14s. And then from there we've grown the club now to be 10 teams. So we've got two men's, two women's, and then 8 junior teams. We spent a lot of time working actually at the grassroots level in recruiting kids. So through that, we've got a Hooked Into Hockey program, which is just through the schools. And we make sure that that is a thriving campaign. This year, we've got over 20 new players from the Hooked Into Hockey program. We don't, one of the things which is different about Torquay Hockey Club is we don't have a facility. We play all our games at Stead Park in Geelong, which is a 40-minute journey for everybody who lives in Torquay. So our social media is so important to us. This image is our new branded website with Kaylee, who's one of our juniors who came through the Hooked Into Hockey program on the front. And then the other aspects it talks about there is Team App and our other social media platforms such as Facebook. Now, Team App is all we have. That's how we communicate to our members. That's our notice board. We don't have a facility to put up notices. We just live off social media, which is a real challenge, but it means we need to be pretty strong in that space. And it has a direct link to participation as it gets people involved. A couple of other things which I think are really important for participation and also building a story around if you want to get a facility like we do, and that is the inclusion and diversity. So we've got a strong sense of that in the club. These are a couple of examples. That's Harmony Day, Harmony Week, International Women's Week, where we have Emily Matthews, who's our inclusion diversity lead in the club. And then the last image there is our new Indigenous shirt, which we're very proud of. It's been developed by BJ O'Toole for the Watherong, and we are aiming to be wearing that as a club to warm-up tops and maybe some uniforms in NAIDOC Week this year. But it's a symbolism of how that we want to work with the Watherong to celebrate our local Indigenous culture. Another thing in terms of planning for sport is we have a strong sense of promoting women's participation. So in our club, we have 2 men's, 2 women's, and all the junior teams are mixed. So gender-wise, we're very, very equal. And we have campaigns which we try and work on through this, so such as This Girl Can. Another thing that we do, which I strongly believe in, is that we have 50% female participation in decision making. So we made a commitment to have 50% of our committee as females. And also we've got a specific role I talked about before that we've just developed called Inclusion and Diversity, which Emily Matthews leads. She's a young person who's doing a leadership course in Geelong, and it means that she can get to lead our club, plan those activities, which is just fantastic. And as I've talked about, the Hooked Into Hockey program before, that's also led by a young female, Olivia Jenkins from our club. She came through the program, Hooked Into Hockey program, and the symbolism of her leading that in the schools and also for the sessions when we run them with the community is just fantastic. And then also the other thing that we do is anytime we have opportunity to have new coaches, we have young females and lead those as well. So this is an example of our This Girl campaign a couple of years ago. And then I think another thing about planning for sport is, from our perspective, we hold on very dearly to everybody gets a go. So we plan all our teams, our junior teams are mixed, and our coaches work very hard on it. Everybody gets playing time. So in that image, when they won the under 13 grand final, it goes to show that there's boys and girls in the image. There's a great sense of fun. It's a lovely image for that. But also there's some kids there who are, just learning. It's only their first season, and they got equal time to some of the best players. There's, in that photograph, there's players that just come back from the under 13 state championships. But every week, those players, they sit on the bench through the games, and that's really important. And part of that, the next slide, is that the quality coaches are so connected to your success. So all our coaches are hockey players. They've all played high-level hockey, and they all work with that same philosophy that I talked about. So we're really trying to make sure that there's equity in how we have our players play the game, share the ball around. So the good players are taught to share the ball. At times that's cost us premierships, but that's okay, because for the longer term, it's a much better way to go. And in terms of an example, a couple of years ago in the grand final for the under-17s, we had 8 girls in our mixed team, and they had 1. We did lose the grand final in the last moment in a playoff, but that's okay. We were quite comfortable with that because we were promoting equity in sport. From a facility design perspective and strategic planning, our next big step is to get a synthetic hockey facility in Torquay. It's a massive step for us to do this and to try and get our partners in government to do that. So that's the vision that we've got for Torquay. But how are we getting there? Basically, the strategic planning process has been long. We started in 2014 when we really started working with the Surf Coast Shire in relation to this. Then we worked with G21 to get it into the hockey strategy, the regional hockey strategy. We've worked with Hockey Victoria, so it's in their state strategic plan for facilities. And then last year we worked on a business case around the ground, which has now been developed. And also, we've now got it into a master plan for the facilities in Surf Coast. So that's the technical design, because whenever you need to get to funding, you need to know the real costs and you need to know what's involved in that, and that's the technical design which has been developed. And this is the master plan for the sports precinct in Torquay. So on the left-hand side is there's the new aquatic centre which is going to be developed down there, and the right-hand side of the image is the location for a multi-use synthetic facility and maybe a hub in the future. So this is great for us that it's been included in the master plan for the precinct, and will hopefully be adopted by council very shortly. Another link for us is that hockey is coming to Geelong for the Commonwealth Games in 2026. So we need to really make sure that as a community club that we get involved with Hockey Geelong and the other stakeholders, so that we can potentially become a training hub for a Hockey Australia in the future. So in terms of our little club, it's grown from nothing and now in a position where we could do some great things in the future. Thank you very much.